Pilots, Indy drivers must pass physical examination. Clear vision in this sport is an obvious requirement, but the doctors are also keenly interested in the drivers' hearts. Research shows among athletes, only bicyclists sustain greater heart rates over prolonged periods.
If you think about the 3 hours or so that they spend on the track during the race, going every moment in a state, I guess, of constant muscle tone is what you would call it, gripping on the wheel and using their feet on the accelerator and sometimes on the brakes. It does take a lot of concentration and a lot of very precise action between their mind and their body. So in this respect, it does take a lot of integration of these parts. As far as strength is concerned, I would say no. As far as endurance, certainly they train for endurance.
Some of the safety measures test that endurance.
You have to be strong and you have to have stamina, because we wear 6 layers of clothing, fireproof clothing. You're enclosed in a small capsule. You have a helmet on which restricts the amount of oxygen that the body can take in. So all tiring effects on the body. And you run the Indianapolis 500 for 3 hours. And you're perfectly fine for the first 2, but it's the last hour when the concentration goes and physical tiredness sets in, fatigue. That's when the mistakes are made. And if you make a mistake at 200 miles an hour, you're in serious trouble.
The 6 layers of clothing, starting with tight-fitting underwear, help protect against burns. But the bulky garments trap body heat in.
If you fight fire as far as preparing for fire like you would for cold weather, the more you can get on, the more you're protected.
Helmet designers believe their ventilated version, that eventually will include an air conditioning accessory, can improve overall comfort.
Dissipate a lot of your heat out of the top of your head, and if we can keep the blood temperature down and give him his faculties while he's driving by not letting him get exhausted in a hot helmet, then we'll help him out a lot, even though he is wearing the hot suit.
Of course, the helmet's primary role is to prevent head injury. The hard shell covers an energy-absorbing liner that has to pass several inspections, including the doctor's.
We also look at the straps and make sure the straps are fastened tightly. If there's any radio equipment put inside or any kind of speakers put inside, or some people put air hoses inside, we make sure that none of this would injure the driver in case of an accident.
There are the uniform pull-away handholds to assist in fast rescues, and on board, high-impact bladders to contain explosive fuel. It's all intended to make the fastest race cars ever also the safest.
People on regular highway accidents, just in their family passenger car, are systemically more severely injured than any of the drivers that I've had opportunity to take care of, with a few exceptions. For whatever reasons, in a passenger car at 55 miles an hour, where at almost 4 times that speed, they're sustaining severe injuries, but not severe life-threatening injuries.
The test comes when the traffic gets heavy.
One driver going around the track at whether he goes 200 or 215 probably is safe the way the cars are designed to hold to the track and stay on the racing surface. However, when we get a crowd of race drivers going out there, I think that's a little different story, because you have to worry more about reaction time and a series of people making judgments that may not coincide.
Once I took the initial shock and I didn't feel anything, I knew it was all right.
Michael Andretti's self-diagnosis is subject to confirmation in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's infield hospital. On race day, Dr. Henry Bach presides over a team of 400 volunteers, doctors, nurses, and paramedics that take responsibility for the 300,000 spectators and the 33 race car drivers. Doctors get their first clues in emergencies while the drivers are still on the track. Trained observers line the straightaways in all 4 corners, relaying their important first impressions back to the field hospital.
I have judges out there, other medical personnel, that tell me from their aspect what kind of forces were involved in the crash. Was it a light crash? Was it a heavy crash? And that allows us, I think, to then look a little deeper into the examination of a driver, to worry about internal injuries or not to worry about internal injuries. And it just puts us in a better state of readiness and allow us to take care of him better.
Many team members devote the entire month of May to Indy. Although there is only one race here, the specialists are accustomed to seeing similar injuries in their everyday world.
This kind of velocity, high-velocity trauma, you see predominantly in people running into things on their motorcycles. And not to imply that the motorcycles go anywhere near as fast as these cars, but that's an unprotected human projectile. On a motorcycle, the rider is the projectile at that speed, and at least they're protected with the car that absorbs a significant amount of the impact.
When serious accidents do happen, the Indy emergency crew brings in its own fast machines. Traffic outside the track on race day could set records for how slow it moves. So seriously injured drivers are airlifted the 3 miles to Methodist Hospital downtown. For the prestige of being part of the most famous of all auto races, a Philadelphia firm donates the services of its most advanced model.
Staff-wise, we carry a doctor and a nurse because we figure a doctor allows us greater maneuverability with what we can do with the patient. We can do in here just about anything. We have access from the waist up on the patient.
The first responders use the new shoehorn-shaped backboard if there's any question at all about spine or neck injury. It's a major improvement over the standard extrication aid.
As you can see, this is fitted so that it will slide in the car and conform to the driver's back as well as conforming to the back of the car's seat. And this is then slid down along the back of the driver, and either with the use of straps or with the use of safety personnel's hands, the driver is kept in contact with this board as he's then extricated or lifted out of the car, protecting his neck and his back.
Drivers are usually awake, though almost always dazed by an accident, so those first encouraging words can quickly bring them back in touch.
Before I even could get my buckles unbuckled, they were there, and they just told me to calm down and everything's all right.
Uninjured, Andretti can drive again the same day. Derek Daly's critical injuries leave time for contemplation.
When I was on the medication and in the hospital, I definitely had to soul search to make sure that I went back to racing for the right reasons, not to go back because it seemed to be the natural thing to do. I wanted to make sure that it was in my heart and in my belief that I still wanted to compete at these type of speeds.
That's a part of the Indy 500 drivers the doctors respect but never treat. When racing's in your blood, you don't need a laboratory test to find it out.
Not so much the uniqueness of the injuries, but the uniqueness of the situation. Understanding that they are a very high velocity injury, and then also that the needs of the driver are different in their long-term desires than the average person that gets hurt and doesn't have the motivation to get back to what hurt them again as quickly as they can.
And as soon as I got there, as soon as I heard the cars and the engines and saw the same people again, I knew there and then it was still the same feeling, and it just made me want to rehabilitate and get fit and strong just as soon as I could to get back in the car.
I'm CNN medical correspondent Dan Rutz, reporting from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.